Madam, I'll talk to you later on. Now, this is a real life situation. Everybody will participate and tell me what will you do in this matter. So people can just raise their hand, or you can just moderate.
So let's hear from the group. Any thoughts about what the mediator should do in this situation? Or not do. JP.
It doesn't have to advise or on a lawyer, no question. And what is to be done in the mediation at the end? If the parties are not able to move, the mediation will go back to the court anyway. The matter will go back to the court anyway. So therefore, like she's to be told, let's proceed with the session. And at the end of the day, if you people are not able to resolve the dispute between yourselves, the matter will go back to the court. But on the lawyer, she doesn't advise it.
But on the lawyer, nothing. Okay. Yes. Do we have, again, let's...
I just want to note a background before responding to Nandini's question, that of course mediation in its formal form and as court annexed is in the last 10 years an evolving and developing form. It's an opportunity again to reiterate what mediation actually means, because there is a lot of confusion in parties in this country as to what they're actually doing with a mediator. They don't have a clear understanding that this is not just going from a formal judge sitting on a very high bench to a less formal judge sitting on the same chair as you. They actually look to you to be one of two. Either another kind of judge that probably, you know, by account of you maybe being a lady or somebody being more elderly or somebody being from your community. There's a misunderstanding, which is why it's a good opportunity to reiterate with compassion what the mediator is intending to do. The mediator, in whatever form, has to remain neutral. And at this point, I would be able to remind the party that I'm in private caucus with, that we are relied on to remain neutral in order to proceed with this mediation, since the idea of the mediation is to, without looking at just the tenets of the law, be able to bring the two parties into a resolution. Also, it is regular. I assume, and I defer to the panel to explain that you've had so many years. You come to mediation with neutrality and compassion. So offering water, providing your handkerchief, these shouldn't be seen as non-neutral acts. Yes, providing a lawyer would be, I will refer you to a panel, and you should, at this point, choose a lawyer that can best advise you. That would be good advice to give to somebody who's going through this. Of course, all mediators do need to listen to a lot of emotional arguments, especially in family matters, especially in property disputes, not so much maybe in commercial matters, but a large number of matters in this country will be family. So at that point, you do have to give some time to allow them to vent, but again, not allow that to proceed to being an open house, because then that will derail the entire process. The person loses their focus on why they're in mediation, and they can't do this in front of the court. So the idea is not to substitute yourself for a softer or a more favorable side mediator.
Just on the matter of the violence, obviously I wasn't there, and you were. For instance, need to look at your code of conduct and what it says about a situation, and the clause within it, which I'm sure there is, which will spell out what the exceptions to confidentiality are. And I think in many codes it will say that if it's a threat to human life, or there's some form of violence, or it's worded differently in different codes, but it does tend to be an exception that the mediator must make their mind up whether they have a duty to report something to the police if someone's life is in danger, or something of a serious nature, or someone is threatening to kill someone. So I suppose I'd be interested to learn from you what your code says, and how the approach you took to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You need the...
Can I...
the button. Okay. Jawad.
How I would look at it is from the wife's conduct and the fact that she is not represented properly. would show that there is no balance of power between the
Correct.
husband and the wife. So, when there is no balance of power, whether that mediation would be a proper mediation and whether you can really proceed with that mediation in that context is something I think I would think of as a mediator.
Yes, it indicates that there is an asymmetry of power between the disputing parties. But from the mediator's point of view, it is also necessary to sit separately with the husband to ascertain his underlying concerns and interests. So I think the mediator has sat separately with the wife. It's nice. And it indicates that there is asymmetry of power. But there is also a need to sit separately with the husbands.
Excellent.
One more question, I think, just take, yeah. Can,
I also understand that there is this power imbalance situation. Providing her with tissue paper or with water, I don't think so. That these are non-neutral acts, right? Because we have empathy, we have to see that also. But suggesting a lawyer would not be appropriate. We can always ask her to go to legal aid and take some better lawyer if she is not satisfied with her own lawyer. And that is right.
somebody here wanted.
There was, yes, here, and then is there a mic on this side? Oh, okay, next.
I agree with Madam when she said that you providing a handkerchief and giving a glass of water are all okay. But then there are so many cases we find that one side is represented by a very good lawyer and the other side is represented by maybe not such an experienced lawyer. But there is nothing you can do about it. The choice of lawyer is of the party. It is not for you to advise the party whether they should get a better lawyer, a more experienced lawyer. And it is definitely a no-no that you tell them that if you are not satisfied with your lawyer, you go to the legal aid and get a better lawyer.
So you would not advise her that she has other options about the
the lawyer?
her choice about the lawyer?
No.
You would stay silent
No,
about that.
it
But
is,
others,
it is probably, to put it in the Indian way, it is her fate that she is represented by a less experienced lawyer. Thank you.
Doug.
Just two thoughts. They might be in the nature of provocative ones. The idea of responding to her request for a better lawyer may seem in the abstract like a rather benign one. After all we're doing is ensuring that there's a level playing field of legal talent. Two questions. The first is, what will the reaction of her current lawyer be? She may be put in the middle of that situation if she discharges that lawyer. And what will the reaction of the husband be to her if she's afraid of him now? Changing up and postponing the mediation might lead him to ask some questions that she doesn't answer, and are we concerned about that response? But secondly, and I owe this to a student, what will her response be if we agree with her that yes, you should get a better lawyer? She might read into that, oh, I must have a very weak case, and therefore maybe I ought to settle right now for what he's offering, because the only people who need better lawyers are clients who are in trouble. That's another way of thinking about the complexity of this seemingly benign exchange.
Okay.
I would add one thing. Apart from the lawyers, by giving water or providing hanky, nobody would provide to the other person as a hygienic manner. And otherwise also, I would say something more, that the party should not be allowed to have the sympathy of the mediator. Mediator must control his own self also, that I don't have to show the sympathy also.
So here there's a little concern even for the handkerchief and the water. Sir.
Nandini, one thing that I would like to, no, it's okay. I would like to say, good that the mediator was a lady. So the hanky, the situation would have been different.
We can say a tissue
Yes,
paper or anything. I'm just giving you a hypothetical situation to think and open. You see what happens in law. Otherwise also, there are different legal interpretation of one thing. So I'm giving you a situation where we can think about it, that how we should react. So I'm just giving you a situation.
One more thing. that this lady saying these few things, hanky, and about the lawyer or whatever, it's okay, it's fine. It's just a startup. But that does not stop your mediation at all.
Correct.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So I'd actually like to hear some comments from the panelists next, and we may come back to to all of you, but I'm going to ask Rebecca next to respond.
So am I on? Can you hear me? Yeah. So let me first say that I have actually offered hankies to men as well, and they've accepted them. Because they can have emotion about cases as easily as women do. Sometimes they suppress it deeper, but it can be there. I think in terms of the recommendation around the representation, the legal representation, I think, frankly, I would never recommend that someone change a lawyer, ever. I feel they made that choice. I don't know what the privileged communications are. They have to, that party in their self-determination has chosen a particular lawyer. That lawyer they should continue to work with if they so choose. That's their business. However, if someone is unrepresented and has no lawyer, then I think the suggestion that send that person to legal aid or other places to, again, sort of equalize the balance of power, I think is perfectly okay.
Nancy.
So, in part because I presented you with the model standards of conduct, I feel a need to refer to the model standards of conduct as I respond to this. I think that there are certain standards in the model standards that could be quite useful. The self-determination standard, the competence standard, which has to do with the competence of the parties to participate in mediation, quality of process, which is something that the mediator is to protect, and the confidentiality standard. I think that using all of those standards, what I would do is something that I have often used in mediations, which is to ask questions in order to ask this woman to help me understand why it is that she is concerned about her lawyer, what is it that she is looking for, finding out more about what's motivating the demand that she's made in order to see whether I can help her by providing her with some idea of options that exist for her without providing an individual referral. Regarding the potential for abuse, I think it's really important to realize that there is significant work that's been done on screening.
Yeah.
And so I am not an expert in this, but I know there are experts in this, and there are questions that are really important questions to ask, rather than assuming one way or another about the reality of any allegations. And then lastly, in terms of quality of process, she has asked for the potentially leaving the mediation process, and I think it's our obligation to educate, again, ask questions in order to try to determine whether this other process would meet her needs better, but asking questions.
Nandini, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I will give my views. See, this is a hypothetical situation which I given you, and I gave it a thought, and I jotted down certain things which I do. First of all, what Mr. Jawad said, that maybe there is no level playing field. The lady is represented by a very junior counsel. Now, but there was one view that she is represented by a counsel. I am nobody to say anything. This is a self-determination process, what Nancy rightly said. So I will not advise her that you change your counsel or you don't change your counsel. It is up to her. If she is crying and outburst is too much, I may give them a short break, that go have a cup of coffee and come back in another 10 minutes. We will start the mediation. Third, I can do that I can tell the lady that if she wants to think about the whole process, she can sit and have a dialogue with her husband and then come back to me. Fourth is, I will in no situation adjourn the matter, because adjourning the matter, like giving a date, will give the lady to think about many more things. She may go to 10 more people. Husband will also go and change his mind next time. And if he is ready to settle, he may not settle the matter. So fourth thing, I will give a very little break. Fifth thing what we can do is, if out of the conversation is somebody is suggesting that why can't we value the house? We can put a valuator and we can find out what is the exact value of the house. So maybe I'll tell the parties to go back and get a qualified valuator and see to it that what is the exact value of the flat so that we can do equal distribution. That is, if the parties are ready and willing, that is the next step, the bargaining part. So these are the answers which have come to my mind. So this is what the moderator can.
Okay. Any last thoughts about this problem? I'll take one more if there were two more comments, and then we're going to move on to another situation. Yes.
One thing I agree with that. Yes, we are not going to suggest her any lawyer. But yes, I'll try to develop her faith in the mediation that at the end of it, you'll not require
No,
any
she's
lawyer.
not saying anything for the lawyer outside the court. She's saying during the
She-
mediation, can you suggest me some lawyer who can come with me?
Then that is independently her decision, because the lawyer which she has come, because we have to, when we go for mediation, we see that if they are not represented even by a lawyer or a good lawyer, but as a mediator, our first duty is to make them feel comfortable in the mediation, that even if you are not represented by a very good lawyer or a junior lawyer, still you have your say in the mediation, and you will be equally given the chances of getting a chance. You'll get a chance to represent your whatever case is there. So I think so. As a mediator, the moment we make them comfortable, they come out and they are the one who give the decision how to come forward and what will
So
be
that is the
best part of it.
self-determination. You have to do it yourself. Here Nisha is there, Nisha Saxena. She